If somebody feels stuck, whether it's fitness, life, all that sort of stuff, what do you think they should do?
I'd say the first thing you should do is just book an event. Book a 5K, book a half marathon, book a marathon, especially if you've been stuck for a while. So don't overthink it as well. I think so many people, think, oh, a marathon, a half marathon, that sounds like, I'm going to have to train for a year, but I think the first step is just booking it in and making that commitment and decision to yourself. And once you've done that, you'll figure it out as you go. So that's kind of what I did. I hadn't run before, pure bodybuilding for, most of my training life, like 9-10 years of pure bodybuilding. Not much cardio unless I was cutting for a competition.
Yeah.
So the most I'd ever run was probably 5K. So I wasn't a runner at all. And that was a push for me. 5K was a push. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm just getting very comfortable doing the same sort of training style for so long, and I lost my love for it a little bit. And I was like, I need to get out of my comfort zone here and do something that's going to be hard and push me. So I was just like, just book it in. Why not? Just book it. You don't need to know exactly how you're going to get there to the finish line. Just book it in. So that's what I did. Booked a 50K. Thought, why not? Ultra marathon. Having never run more than a 5K, it's a great idea.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? And funny enough, something did go wrong. So I actually got injured. So the first one I tried to do, I actually overtrained. So I strained my calf a week before, which was very frustrating. And then I had to kind of go backwards a few steps and, recover, repair the injury, and then apply for another one 6 months later. So that was hard to kind of go backwards to go forwards again. But ended up doing it, completed it somehow. So yeah, I'd say for anyone that's feeling a bit stuck, just make the first step and book an event. It doesn't have to be a marathon, even a 5K, 10K, whatever's kind of just slightly out of your comfort zone and you think you might not be able to achieve it, just try and book it. Just book it in and see how you go.
I've had a few guests on the last couple of weeks, and that comfort zone thing is it comes up a lot, but in different circumstances. I had one guy talking about happiness and all that sort of stuff, and booking a holiday and just getting outside your comfort zone and going somewhere where you wouldn't normally go to just break that, again, comfort. So it's good. So why, you talk about training, all that sort of stuff. How long were you training in bodybuilding for?
So I'd say since I was 15. So 15 till about late 20s. Yeah, shit. So a good 11, 12 years, I'd say. Yeah, consistently.
What got you into the gym in the first place?
Good question. I think like a lot of young guys, when you first start lifting weights, you kind of do it for the superficial kind of confidence thing. Like you feel skinny, so you want to put on a bit of muscle to impress your mates or get the girl, those kind of superficial egotistical reasons. I think a lot of guys, that's probably one of the main reasons they start training. They see Arnold Schwarzenegger, people like that, Ronnie Coleman or whatever, and think, oh wow, that must be like the pinnacle of fitness. So that's, and I used to get all the magazines, like the Flex magazines, Men's Health magazines, Muscle and Fitness, all of these, and I looked at the guys in there and I was thinking, wow, this is so impressive. Like, is this real? Like, can I achieve this? So I think it was that sense of, really getting out of my comfort zone and trying to achieve something that I didn't think was possible.
Do you think you achieved it?
Looking back now, yeah. So I competed in a couple of men's physique competitions in my early 20s.
How'd they go?
So I placed 3rd and 4th consecutively, so not too bad. Yeah. However, I sacrificed so much to get there. I sacrificed my social life, Didn't drink. Was eating out of Tupperware, you know, with my ex, out for dinner, eating out of Tupperware every meal while they had a lovely meal.
Yeah.
And I was starting to question if it was worth it. Is what I'm doing really worth it here? And you know what, looking back, I'm glad I did it, because I really did push the limits. I got down to about 5-6% body fat, which isn't healthy necessarily. Like, looking back, I still thought I could have been leaner, which is a scary thought. But I'm definitely glad I did it, to kind of see how far I can push my physique and how lean I could get. But yeah, I definitely pushed the limit, and I ticked it off, and I wouldn't do it again. But
why not?
I think because it was too much sacrifice. I sacrificed too much to get there. I sacrificed my mental health. I wasn't... Physically, I looked awesome, but mentally, I wasn't happy. I was obsessed. With tracking my macros. If I went 2 or 3 calories over for the day, I'd berate myself for hours, thinking, "Come on, you can do better." It was OCD.
Yeah.
It was really OCD. But I think when you're in that bodybuilding world, you almost need to be obsessive, because it does take over your whole life. It's the training, it's the nutrition, it's the recovery, the supplementation. You've got to track. If you want to get down to 5% body fat, you have to track every single thing that's going into your body. But you sacrifice, or at least I sacrificed a lot of my mental health on the way. And I actually felt on stage, I felt terrible.
Yeah, right.
I felt shocking. I felt so weak. Even though I looked strong, I felt really weak.
Yeah.
Really weak. Yeah. So no, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it again.
It's crazy, the idea of what people think is healthy.
Yes.
And what is actually healthy.
Yes.
So you've been a PT for how long now?
So I think about 10 years. Almost 10 years. Yeah.
And when people come to you and say, I want to look like that because I think it's healthy, and I want to, I want to be healthier, lose body fat, all that sort of stuff. What's the conversation like? And do you let them chase that? Do you help them, or do you have a conversation to sort of, hey, that's not so healthy. Let's work on something else. This is what you should be doing. Or is it let them figure it out themselves? I
think, it's kind of a combination. Like, I think sometimes you got to let them figure it out for themselves, but obviously you can impart your experience and your knowledge as well, because it's, at the end of the day, it's their decision. Like, you're not there to tell them what to do. You're there to guide and coach them. So I'd say for anyone that comes to me and says, I want to get shredded, I'd say, why? Why do you want to get shredded? Is it to impress someone else? Is it to impress other people? Is it to make yourself feel more accepted? Or is it an internal reason? I think for me it was more of an insecure thing. I think a lot of guys that go into that bodybuilding space are quite insecure, and they're doing it to try and prove a point to themselves or other people that they're worthy. So I'd ask the real reason why do you want to get shredded? Because I think the main reason is you want to feel good. And you think being 5% body fat is going to make you feel good, because you see these guys in the magazines, maybe they're smiling, they're shredded, but in reality, being 10 to 15% for a guy is much healthier. You're going to feel good. You're also going to look good. So I'd ask them why.
Yeah. Like you said, I think once people start realising that what they have to sacrifice and what it actually takes, and how you start feeling is...
And if they're willing to sacrifice that,
100%.
Fair enough.
Yep.
And I don't see why that would be a massive problem. If you're willing to sacrifice that, just for a competition, I wouldn't say it's sustainable for years and years on end. I don't know how Chris Bumstead and people like this do it. year on year on year on year, to be honest. It's crazy.
A lot of enhancements, I'd say.
Of course.
And that's sort of where I want to go next, like the whole social media thing, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
People like Chris Bumstead make it look so easy to stay ripped all year round.
Yeah.
And people think that that's achievable, but they're literally 0.01% of the population that can do it.
Yes.
Like their life, that is their life.
Yes.
Like everybody else, we have work, we have stress, kids, like bills,
of course,
all that sort of stuff. It's not possible to do that. And unfortunately, people see that and go, well, he's ripped all year round. Like, why can't I?
Yeah.
So what do you, like, why do you think people are, you know, maybe not Chris Bumstead, but people like that are trying to make it look so easy for the general public? Like, what do you think they're trying to convince themselves to continue doing it, that it's easy? Or do you think they're trying to sell something to the general public? Like,
it's a good question. I don't know if he's necessarily trying to sell something to the public. I think he's trying to, it's more of a I think bodybuilding generally is more of a selfish pursuit, you know, because you're not really helping anyone else by getting shredded, other than your own, you know, ego, really. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's trying to prove to everyone that everyone can be like him. I think he's more so. It's a tricky one, man. It's a really tricky one. Yeah.
Not necessarily him, but I find that these days there's a lot of younger 20-year-olds obviously juicing quite a lot, getting ripped and saying like, this is the best life ever. And I just don't understand why they're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Like, to try and influence people to work out, juice, get ripped.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think if it's not your ultimate goal to compete in professional bodybuilding, then it's probably not going to be worth the sacrifice you're going to have to make, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I don't think a lot of people see the behind the scenes part of things.
I think you see the facade, you know, the Instagram pictures that are all edited and, you know, they've got the best lighting, and when in reality, like, no one on Instagram looks like that day to day. Like, even the most shredded, ripped, muscular influencers out there, they probably look not a lot like most of their photos. So I think you've got to take that into consideration when you're comparing yourself to all of these people online. That's not real. It's not reality.
Did you find you were comparing yourself to everybody else in the bodybuilding realm when you were doing it?
100%. So I looked up to people like Ryan Terry when I was sort of coming up, because I thought that was on the edge of being achievable, that kind of physique, because he wasn't like a Ronnie Coleman, for example, like Jay Cutler. He wasn't like, you know, absolutely massive, but he was still very muscular, but I was more about all the proportions, you know, sculpting the physique, getting all the proportions, symmetry. So I looked up to him and I thought that could be achievable. So yeah, I definitely did compare myself to people like him, and people in the physique category than the bodybuilding category.
Is that still a thing, or do you think you've grown out of that?
Nah, I've definitely grown out of that now.
Why?
Yeah.
How?
I think I've just shifted my values a lot from my 20s to my 30s. So in my 20s, I valued the way I looked over the way I felt. You know, I was really obsessed with, you know, gaining an extra inch of my biceps, or, you know, getting my lower abs to pop more. And now I don't really care, to be honest. I still want to look good and be in shape, but I also want to feel good. So I think trying to combine those two now is where I'm at. And, you know, life will inevitably throw hard stuff at you, and that makes you realize what you value a lot more. And being fit and healthy and strong, instead of just looking good, is way more important to me now. I think a lot of people cross those over. They think fitness and being healthy and strong correlates with looking good, but a lot of the time it doesn't. So I think, people have got to realize that I think focusing on feeling good is going to make you look good anyway, and that's just the icing on top of the cake, but the cake is feeling good, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I always say that. I try and point that out as much as I can. If you focus on health, results will just follow.
Exactly.
And then, you're not going to look like a bodybuilder, but you're going to feel a lot better than one.
Exactly.
And you're going to be able to run, jump, push, pull, all the things you should be able to do as a human.
Exactly.
So what do you think people in the gym these days are getting wrong? Like when they approach their health and fitness, what's the main things that they're getting wrong?
Do you mean people kind of starting out?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Most people listening to this podcast are trying to still figure it out. Figuring out their health and fitness journey, trying different things. Yeah. So a lot of people are, failing, but still want to learn and continue. So what are most people getting wrong, and what should they be focusing on?
I'd say, the fads, like the fad diets and, jumping on a keto diet or, a paleo diet or the latest diet just because one of your favorite influencers has promoted it, or a training style or a training program just because, I want to look like this guy, I want to look like that guy. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is because they're comparing their situation to someone else's who they don't even know anything about their life, that they're trying to sell something to online. And it's, at the end of the day, not reality. And that's where I think, hiring a coach that's got a lot of knowledge and experience and having a chat about your goals and why you want to achieve those goals is really important. And I think that's what a lot more people could really benefit from is, if you're not really sure which path you want to take in terms of training, nutrition, then talk to a professional. Like, just have a chat to a coach. And then, make your own mind up from there.
So what does work in the gym? In health and fitness, sorry. Like, what works?
I guess, it comes back to what your goals are again, but I'd say for someone that's starting out, I'd say you want to focus on training your whole body, a full body split or an upper lower split, not a one or two muscle groups a day split, which is, I think, what a lot of guys especially start with, because it's more of that, I need to batter my chest, for 10 sets a day just for it to grow, when you realize that you don't need to do that. It's about training smarter, not harder, doing as little as you can for the most benefit. So I'd say, going back to your question, sorry, what was your question?
What are the basics people should be focusing on to get results?
So I'd say literally focus on the basics, focus on the basic movements. Don't overcomplicate it. You see on social media all these exercises that, jumping around, and which are great and they have their place. But I think focus on just getting stronger on the compound lifts. You squat, you bench, you deadlift, perfect your technique on those. Because it takes years. I think people expect, you go into the gym and expect to know it all straight away. For a simple exercise, you think a simple exercise like a deadlift or a squat is easy to execute with perfect technique, but it's not. It takes years. It probably took me 4 or 5 years to perfect, the squat technique, the deadlift technique, the bench press technique. So I think focus on the basics, perfect the basics, and then you can start to add in, the accessory movements on top of that.
Are you a fan of tracking? How should somebody entering the gym, they're just starting out, should they track? How should they track? What should they be focusing on in that sense?
Yeah, I'd say track, but don't get obsessed with it. So I think there's a fine line between, you know, you want to make improvements and you want to see that your weights are going up every week, because it gives you a sense of achievement. You know, you want that sense of achievement each week. So I think in that sense, it's good because it holds you accountable. So I think, yeah, in that it's good to track. Definitely good to track your weights, your reps, but don't be obsessive over it. And don't beat yourself up if you're not lifting more every single week. Don't beat yourself up over it. You know, because you're not going to get stronger every single week that you train. It's just the reality. But I think look at the bigger picture, zoom out, and see what your schedule's like your tracking's like over a 3-month period, and think, is the progression, you know, linear, or is it going down? You know, if it's going down, maybe you need to start thinking about tracking a bit more obsessively. But yeah, I'd say for anyone starting in the gym, definitely a good idea to track, but don't become obsessive over, you know, week in, week out, getting stronger, doing more reps, you know.
Keep an eye on it.
Keep an eye on it, yeah.
So I had this question from a listener a few episodes ago for a Q&A. I'm going to ask you, how do I know when I'm strong enough?
Good question. How do I know when I'm strong enough? Is there a limit to strength?
Is there? What do you consider strong?
I mean, it's all subjective, isn't it? I mean, you can't say, oh, you know, I always had a goal to bench press 100 kilos. So when I was, you know, first started training, I was like, my goal is to bench press 100 kilos. So I think, you know, that's going to be a really good weight. 2 plates. It's like that thing of having 2 plates on the bar, you know? And when I got there, I was like, okay, I've achieved it, but for what reason? For what goal? Like, I feel strong, but why? Like, why have I chosen this goal? And I think it's, you know, why do you want to be strong? I think it's great to be strong, but you don't need to be like a power lifter. You don't need to be a strong man, you know? As long as you feel like you're getting stronger in the gym, then that's the main thing, you know? So I don't think there's a limit to it. It's just, if you feel good, if you feel fit, if you can, you know, go for a 5K run without having any aches or pains, stuff like that, then yeah, there's no limit.
I might have to work on the 5K run, but
Do you do any running yourself, Jack?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I've tried to add more and more in. I did challenge a friend to a 5K race this year. I think I might have talked him down to a 50-metre race.
More of a sprinter than a long distance.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely something I need to add in. Like I do sprints more than long distance.
Yes.
Like my endurance at the moment is swimming, so I'm really enjoying swimming at the moment.
Yeah, I saw some of your full body kind of sprints in the pool and then getting out and doing some body weight exercises. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's good fun. Just breaks it up a little bit. Like so 50 metres swim, and then you do 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, 20 squats. It's enough to sort of get the heart rate up, go for another swim. So your heart rate's up. You swim about 1,000 metres or something like that.
Yeah.
That's how I like to do cardio. Running. I used to run. What's your fastest 5K?
I'm actually aiming for sub 20. So my fastest at the moment is about 21, just over 21. My goal this year is to do sub 20.
I hit sub 20.
Yeah, nice.
And then I stopped.
And then you stopped, yeah?
Isn't it funny? Like, we have those goals, like your goal of 100 kilo bench, and you get there and it's just like,
what's next?
What's next?
I think because there's always, you know, there's never like an end point. You know, you reach a goal and you realise that there's always going to be another goal. Yeah. Next. So. And that's why I like that question of like, when am I strong enough? Like, it's a never ending question, because strong can mean so many different things, and it's pointless trying to be stronger. But it's, I don't know, it's a lesson I think you learn with time. Of course. Like, I think we've been working out for about the same amount of time. I started working out when I was 15, 16. And you just sort of get to those points and you're like, does that matter anymore? Like, Yeah. I think it's like the value shift as well, isn't it? Between your 20s to your 30s. You know, you start valuing different things.
Your body doesn't bounce back like it does when it's in your 20s.
No.
So you don't train like when you're in your 20s.
No, I used to train twice a day. So when I was training for these physique competitions, I would train morning and evening for 6 months.
But
I could
lifting twice.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I'd do, chest and shoulders in the morning and back and biceps in the evening. So yeah, it was intense. But obviously, like you say, like you can recover a lot quicker when you're in your 20s. Like when you're in your pushing mid-30s now, you need to listen to your body and train a bit smarter rather than harder.
Yeah, the recovery is a big...
Recoveries, yeah, you're more focused on your recovery, like tracking your heart rate and heart rate variability and things like that, managing your stress levels. That becomes a lot more important than benching 100 kilos.
Couple of directions I want to go with that. But first, like, what do you... like? More and more I see guys in their 20s, like, starting to use all sorts of enhancements, testosterone, peptides, all that sort of stuff. Like, again, when you're in 20s, you can just train a bit smarter and get crazy results.
Yes.
So what would you say to that sort of trend? Like those guys
the
starting to do that
kind of trend?
Yeah.
The hormone replacement? Yeah. I'd say, and funny you bring this up because I actually want to get my testosterone tested. I don't know if you've done it, Jack.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. I think it's a really good idea
for everybody listening. Last week or the week before, I had Ashley on, so she does blood work.
Okay.
So if you want to get it done,
definitely.
see her.
Yeah, 100%.
Because she said, like, in that conversation, every time I have a guest on, I'm like, there's always something I need to work on. And she's like, you got to get your bloods done 2 to 3 times a year, even if, like, when you're not sick. So you have a good baseline of what is healthy.
Yes.
So yeah, it's definitely something I need to start doing. Like, again, I've dropped the ball on a lot of my health.
Yes.
Which we'll get into later on.
Okay.
But yeah. So sorry, you're going to get tested?
Yes. So coming back to your question, I wouldn't worry about it. If you're in your early 20s, you're going to have high testosterone levels. Like, you don't need to worry about adding any artificial testosterone into your body. Like, you just do not need it. So I'd say before you even think about, steroids or anything like that, make sure that you've had an extended period of time. I'd say at least 4, 5, 6 years of consistent strength hypertrophy training to know what your genetic kind of limit is naturally before you even consider taking anything artificial. If you get to that point, and you think you've reached your genetic ceiling or whatever, then yeah, maybe if you want to still consider it, but I wouldn't say until then, no way.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend. It's like Ozempic's the same. Like, there's a lot of things that can cheat the process a lot faster, and people are opting for them. And it's a weird trend. Like, the journey is so much fun.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a fitness thing. Obviously, we both love fitness. We both love working out, but I love that journey.
Yeah.
Like, what is my genetic potential?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to cheat that with some sort of, whether I'm trying to drop body fat and use Ozempic or something like that, or trying to get stronger and use testosterone. Like, I want to see what I can do.
Yeah.
But it just seems to be a big trend of, I just want to jump to the end and see what's at the end. Yeah.
And I think it's a shame. I think it's, it's that instant gratification, immediate pleasure. It's everywhere now. It's so hard to avoid now. It's so hard to avoid. And I think, but like you say, it is about enjoying that process. And as hard as that process is, you're going to learn so much more about yourself and, your values and virtues and, so much you can spread to other people and knowledge and experience going through the process yourself than taking a pill or injecting, something that gives you a quick boost.
Yeah.
You don't learn much from that.
No. Yeah. Lessons. Learning those lessons.
Learn those lessons. Yeah. Learn it along the way. And you're going to fuck up. You're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way, but that's how you learn from them.
So let's learn from your training. So you went from bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And you do like functional training. What would you say your style of training is now?
I'd say it's kind of a hybrid, I guess you call it. So essentially lifting weights and running, to put it simply. So I'll do...
But full body these days?
Yeah, so I kind of chop and change from an upper and lower split to a full body split, depending on how much I'm running.
Okay.
So if I'm running, say, 3 days a week, then I'll just do, 2 days of weights. So full body. Sometimes I'll go through phases of doing a bit more weights. So I'll do more of an upper lower split, say 4 days a week, and maybe 1 or 2 days running. So it depends on the sort of training phases I'm going through. But at the moment I'm following a full body, 3 day a week running. Nice. So 2 days full body, 3 days running.
And you said in your answer of what people shouldn't be doing in the gym was like, single muscle or double muscle split type things. Why should people not do that, and why should people do full body?
I'd say because you can get just as many benefits from doing a full body split to doing, a single muscle split, and you're going to save a lot of time and energy, which can be used elsewhere. To be honest, like I used to spend 2.5 hours training my chest and triceps.
Shit. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was that. No, I had a great...
I laugh, but I see guys doing that all the time in the gym.
Yeah.
Like they're in there for 2 hours. I'm like, what are you still doing here?
Just on 1 or 2 muscles.
Yeah. And like, oh, it's chest day. I'm like, so?
But it's like that, it's like junk volume. You're only going to reach a point where you only need like a couple of sets to failure, really. If you're hitting close to failure on a couple of sets, that's all you need. You don't need to be doing like 8, 9, 10 sets on one muscle.
Yeah.
It's just excessive.
Yeah, waste of time.
It's a waste of time. Yeah, so I think for time efficiency, save your energy and do full body.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. I did CrossFit for quite a few years. Obviously that's full body, but quite intense on the body.
Yes.
And I stopped doing that, tried the split, but just could not see results, and then started training the full body like 3 times a week, and throwing some functional things in there like cardio, sort of stuff. And like not only myself, but when I get my clients to do the same thing, the results are so much faster.
Yes.
Like so much better.
Yeah.
But there's still like, I train with a couple of guys in this building and they're still heavily like on the split, and trying to get them convert over to the full body. I don't know. It's just like,
it's really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. And I don't understand why.
Yeah, I think it's that bro mentality. Sorry. Yeah, I think people get stuck, almost like in their egos a little bit, And it's hard.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. Yeah, you get really comfortable doing, and you think you're going out of your comfort zone, but you're not really.
No,
you're not at all. So.
Yeah. Like when I get some guys to jump on my program and do the full body, like they're blown away by like how much is there.
Yes.
But it can be a lot, but also at the same time, it's not. Like it's probably about the same amount of sets that they were doing on their chest day, but it's spread out over the whole body.
Exactly.
It's just,
I think people have the idea that maybe they're not going to get as many gains from doing, a full body split to, smashing your chest twice a week. But I think, when you try and educate people and say like, you're going to get just as many gains from doing a full body split. It's just training smarter.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, that comes down to experience as well. Like we could do 3 sets on your chest, and by that 3rd set, like I can't do any more. Like we know how to push, we know form, we know technique, we know how to get the most out of each rep, each set. So we can get that in 3 sets, where a new lifter, they might not get that over the 3 sets. And unfortunately, like, I just didn't get the burn like I did when I do 10 sets. And it's like, that's okay.
Point. Yeah, good point.
But just take the time to learn how to do it in 3 sets rather than 10.
Yes. And I think learning that mind-muscle connection takes a long time.
And I find a lot of newbies, especially the guys that have been doing the bro splits, don't understand that, and that's hard to communicate.
Yes.
But once they start learning it, they're like, oh shit, like, and there is like start building muscle so much faster.
Of course.
And start getting a lot more strength.
Yeah.
In half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to be open to experiencing it and trying it.
Yeah.
You got to get belief out of your head that it's not going to affect your gains.
Yeah.
You know, which I think for a lot of guys, they have that belief still.
Yeah. And girls.
And girls.
Gains are a big thing these days.
And girls, yeah.
Let's talk about gains a little bit. Like, when somebody comes to you and they want to build muscle, like, how long should they be thinking about, you know, I want to get ripped and I want to build muscle? How long?
How long does it take?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to look at where they're starting from, because everyone's starting from a different position. So, you know, it's not going to be the same for every person. And you've got to say, you've got to break it down and say, oh, how much muscle do you want to put on? How much body fat do you want to lose? So, yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
Basically, just trying to give people a realistic idea of how long results take to happen.
How long those take.
Yeah, because
people think they can do a quick fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we were just talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always going to take a hell of a lot longer than you think. A hell of a lot longer than you think. Now, to build a few kilos of muscle is going to take, you know, at least a good 6 to 12 months. You know, it's not going to happen in 6 to 8 weeks. So I think, yeah, educating people on that is really important.
Building muscle is very hard.
Yes.
It takes a lot of energy and a lot of time.
And the nutrition is so important as well. If you haven't got that dialed in, then, you know, you can be lifting as hard and as frequently as, you know, you want, but if you've not got the nutrition dialed in and you're not eating an adequate amount of protein and recovering properly, then you're never going to be able to build the muscle that you want. So I think that's so important.
So I've asked you a question of what newbies should be doing in the gym. What should newbies be focusing on with nutrition? I know you said stay away from the fads and all that sort of stuff, but
yeah,
if somebody's coming to you and they're like, you know, I don't know much about nutrition, where should I start?
I'd say focus on your protein first off. Like, make sure you're getting an adequate amount of protein, because especially if you want to build muscle and lose fat, I'd say that's one of the most important macros to focus on initially, is making sure you've got an adequate amount of protein. And then I'd say, you know, break up your carbs and fats evenly, like pretty evenly. Like, have a pretty even split for the carbs and fats. Don't obsess over it. Make sure that you're getting protein, carbs, fats in each meal. Early on in the day, I'd focus more on the protein and fats, not so heavy on the carbs. Don't overcomplicate it. I think a lot of people try and overcomplicate the diet.
Definitely.
So try and keep it as simple as you can when you're first starting out, you know.
So what's protein? What's fats? What's carbs?
So protein's there, you know, protein's your meats, your eggs, your Greek yogurt, you know, that's going to repair your muscle, rebuild it, repair your ligaments, repair your tendons. So focusing on that if you want to build muscle is really important. Obviously, the more muscle you have, the more fat you're going to be able to burn. So the faster your metabolism is going to be, the more muscle you have. So focusing on that protein is really important. Obviously, your carbs, you know, I'd focus on your oats, your rice, your potatoes, you know, just those simple carbohydrates. Break up into complex and simple. So complex carbs, more like your brown rice, your sweet potatoes, compared to your simple carbs, you know, your white rices, your white breads. Avoid those sugary carbs as much as you can when you first start out, I'd say.
The white carbs?
The white carbs. So try and avoid, I think white potato and things like that are fine. But, you know, I'd avoid the processed carbs. You know, try and stick to the whole foods. You know, you stick to potatoes. Stick to stuff that grows from the ground. Make it simple. Sweet potatoes are great. And then your fats, you know, focus on your healthy fats. So getting your avocado in, getting your healthy oils, your olive oil, get a good olive oil to cook with. focus on those simple things, you know, your nuts, avoid too many saturated fats, but don't overcomplicate it. I think that's the main advice I give. Don't overcomplicate too much.
Simple, unprocessed.
Simple, unprocessed. If it grows out the ground, grows from a tree, it's good.
Would you recommend, like somebody starting out, would they track? Would you, like, are you a fan of tracking calories, macros?
It's funny you say that, because I think I've got a bit of trauma from this, Jack, to be honest. Honestly, because I was so obsessive over tracking. And I know that other people and my clients have got obsessed over it as well. And then it becomes unenjoyable. And you know, if you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to get results, I don't think, in a lot of cases. So you've got to make sure that you're enjoying it. So tracking is good. And I'd say definitely track, but don't get obsessive over if you've gone, you know, 10 calories over or for a day or something, you know, but look at the big picture. And I'd recommend tracking, but don't get obsessed.
Yeah, it is hard, isn't it?
Yeah. It's finding the balance.
Yeah. All I try and say to clients, like, definitely if a client asks about it and they're keen to do it, help them as much as possible.
Yeah.
But most people, I just say track 1 day, 2 days, and see what you're eating. Because most people don't even know what they're eating.
Yes.
Like how much protein, how much carbs, how much fat.
Yeah.
And when people do that and they realise, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, and I
that's
think
a lot of fat.
Once you've got an idea of what your calories are for the day and what you're eating, then you don't have to necessarily track every single day, because you know this is what I need to maintain my body weight or lose weight, gain weight. Yeah. So you don't necessarily need to be tracking every single day.
How do supplements fit into that?
I'd say focus on your food first off. Like, make sure you're getting enough good food, good quality food before you even think about supplements. So for me, I've always used creatine. Like, I think that's one of my go-to supplements. Take that every day, 5 grams a day, every day. You know, it's one of the most researched supplements out there. It's been proven to work. So I definitely recommend taking that. You know, whey protein is always a good supplement to take. You know, just a basic whey protein, doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can get obviously whey protein isolate, whey protein concentrate. Try both, figure out how you feel, how your stomach feels, how you're digesting it, what works best for you. And then obviously you can go down a rabbit hole in the supplement world. You know, I've tried lots of different supplements in my time, but I think sticking to 2 or 3 is plenty, and focusing on, you know, whole foods in your diet is the most important.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah.
Anything else on sort of training, nutrition that you want people to know about? Like, if you could give, I like asking this question, but if you could give, like, you were elected president, prime minister, whatever you want, of Australia, dictator, you had to give everybody one thing that would improve their fitness, health, whatever it is, and everybody had to follow it. Every single Australian had to do it.
Okay.
Like, anything. What would it be?
Sleep.
Okay.
Focus on your sleep.
Yeah, shit.
You know, that's one thing in the last few years that I've really started focusing on, is my sleep. I know we haven't even talked about it yet, but I think it's the foundation of health, is sleep. My mood, if I follow a consistent sleep pattern, so, you know, getting into bed by 10 at the latest and getting up at, you know, 6, my mood is so much better during the day. My energy is so much higher, which then affects my training. It affects my interactions with people around me. It just, you know, makes my whole day a lot better. So I think getting that foundation of sleep, I'd say, is the foundation for everyone. And then that's what I prescribe.
Every Australian.
Prescribe to every Australian.
I would agree.
Not necessarily like have to go to bed at this time every single night, but have some sort of routine, have some sort of consistent routine.
So what do you mean by that?
So trying to get at least 7 to 8 hours, I'd say, at least 7 to 8 hours. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of sleep, and they'll stay up maybe 1, 2 a.m. a couple of nights a week, and they'll wonder why they're reaching for the sugar, they're reaching for the more caffeine, which then is affecting their mood, affecting their work, affecting their productivity. It all trickles from sleep into every other area. So I think, make sure you just consistently getting 7 to 8 hours a night if you can. I know sometimes it's difficult. We will have responsibilities and sometimes you're not going to get that, but I think, that's what I'd recommend.
Any do's or don'ts before bed, after waking up? Do you track? Do you recommend tracking sleep? Does that help?
I personally don't track it. I go by just how I feel. Like for me, if I get 7.5 to 8 hours of good sleep, then I'll feel great. But generally, I'd say before bed, try and not look at your phone. I'd say like half an hour before you go to bed. Easier said than done with Instagram scrolling these days. But I'd say, eliminate screens for as long as you can. Maybe read a book before you go to bed. That's what I do. Definitely helps me fall asleep quicker and get a better quality of sleep. I'd say in the morning, as soon as the alarm goes off, get out of bed. Try and jump out of bed straight away, because I feel like that sets you up for the day. I try and do a set of press-ups every morning, just to, wake myself up. Bit of discipline, because I don't really want to do it. You don't want to do it when you first get out of bed, but, pushing out 50 push-ups is...
50 straight up?
50 straight up, yeah.
In one go?
In one go, yeah.
Serious?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I feel like it's just that small win, for the day. And then you build on that, So I think it's a good thing to do. Like when you wake up, get out of bed, don't hit the snooze. Because I feel like that time in the morning is, if you're lying in bed, that's when you start overthinking and you get anxious and you start thinking about what you're doing for the day, and just get out, do your push-ups, do your squats, just a quick set, jump in the shower and get going.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let's take a little break.
Yeah.
You said when you were training for your marathon, you got injured and you sort of had to take a step backwards to then go forwards.
Yes.
How do you go from stepping backwards?
That was really hard.
Yeah.
Mentally, that was really, really hard, because obviously I'd been training for a good 6 months, running 4 or 5 times a week.
And you're a week out from the comp.
I was 1 week out.
Yeah.
I was 1 week out and I just pushed too hard. I felt almost like invincible, like stupid.
Yeah.
And I thought, it was literally, it wasn't even a week out. It was like 4 or 5 days out from the race, and strained the calf, went to see a physio. He said, "No, mate, there's no chance. There's no chance you're going to be running." And I was like, no. Like, I've trained so hard for this.
Yeah.
I raised all this money as well for charity. And I thought I'd almost like let people down in a way, because like obviously they'd donated all their money toward the cause. And it was really hard mentally to get out of that. And I was feeling a bit down, to be honest. But only for a few days. And then I was like, Jonny, it's done. Move on. You can't change it. So just accept it. It's happened.
Okay. Don't skip over that. That's was that coming from internal or external?
Internal.
Okay.
Yeah. Internal.
How? Because that's not easy to do.
No, and I think that was from reading a lot about Stoicism.
Yeah.
And accepting the things that you can't change. As hard as it is, you're just going to beat yourself up because you cannot change it. And, you know, when someone gets sick, for example, someone close to you dies, or, you know, you have a big trauma, something happens in your life that you can't change, you're forced to then change yourself. And that's where Stoicism has helped me a lot, you know, separating things you can control and things you can't control. And that's something I still do.
So explain what Stoicism is for everybody listening.
So I think the main concept of Stoicism is separating the things that you can control from what you can't control.
How do you know the difference?
So that's where it's tricky. And that's where you've got to sit down with yourself and analyze. And this is where journaling has helped me as well. So writing down, you know, your thoughts. Doesn't have to be, you know, anything that's on your mind, just like a stream of thoughts, what's going on. And then you can start to figure out, okay, these are the things that maybe I can't control. So I'm gonna let them go. I'm gonna try my best to let them go because I can't do anything about them. So I'm gonna really try my best. I can't control a member of my family having a terminal illness. That's something I can't control. And as hard as it is to accept that, I need to let it go and focus on what I can control. I can control my attitude towards it. You know, my perception of it, I can control. I can either decide to be, you know, upset about it, or I can decide to make me stronger, make me more resilient. It can teach me something. I think, you know, when something hard happens, it can always teach you something on the flip. There's always something on the flip side that it can teach you. So I'd say for someone going through maybe a hard time, maybe you've got a family member that has a terminal illness and you're struggling to deal with that. Stoicism has really helped me, and I think it can also probably help a lot of people figuring out, you know, what you can control and what you can't control and separating the two.
Where should people start with Stoicism?
So I'd say Marcus Aurelius meditations really changed my perspective on a lot of things in my life.
Anything from that book or those readings that come you
so
think of regularly?
One of his quotes is, the closer one is to a calm mind, the closer one is to strength. And that really resonated with me. Because, you know, when something triggers you or something happens traumatic in your life, you know, you have a lot of thoughts going on everywhere, this way, that way. And it's hard to control them sometimes. And that's where I got into kind of the meditation side of it. Okay, so having a calm mind is going to help me get stronger. So I think almost like training your mind is just as important as training your body, if not more important. And obviously they go hand in hand. You know, when you push yourself physically, you're going to build resilience mentally. So I'd say, yeah, start with Marcus Aurelius' meditations. That really was a good one for me. Ryan Holiday's books are great as well. Don't know if you read any of those.
I know who he is, but I haven't read any of his books, no.
Okay, yeah, so his books are really good. So The Obstacle is the Way is one. He talks a lot about discipline and how you can incorporate discipline into your life in different areas. The Daily Stoic is a good one. So it kind of takes snippets of all of the Stoic philosophers and puts them into bite-sized chunks, so it's kind of easy to remember and integrate into your own life. So it'll be a quote from a philosopher, and then it will have a little paragraph explaining what the quote's about, so you can then relate it to what's going on in your own life.
When did you start journaling?
So I started journaling, I'd say in my late 20s. I kind of, started journaling, I'd say it was about 29, maybe 30. It was actually when one of my close members of my family got diagnosed with a terminal illness and needed a way to get what was going up in here onto paper.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like from reading Marcus Aurelius as well, his meditations is basically a journal. It's a journal of all his thoughts and what he was dealing with throughout his life. So I thought, I'm going to just start writing, and it really did help me externalize what was going on internally, and gave me a lot of clarity on not only the situation but my thoughts, and helped me move forward, and not get so caught up in.
Has that been a daily practice since? Like, is that something you do every day since?
The meditation has been.
Okay.
Yeah, so I definitely practice the meditation still.
What does that look like?
So it'll start with, in the morning I'll do a breathwork kind of session.
Guided, or you just?
Used to be guided, so I got onto the Wim Hof. So I started on kind of the Wim Hof method, which I found really helped me with the anxiety I was feeling. And then once I got used to doing that, didn't do it guided and just kind of did my own thing. But generally it was 3 to 4 sets of 30 breaths with a hold at the end. I don't know if you tried that before. But yeah, really found that helped my mood and helped me stay calm and present when I was going through a bit of a tough time. And then the meditation was, so do the breath work to kind of calm the thoughts, and then go into the meditation after that.
Yep.
So just the mindfulness meditation, just becoming aware of your thoughts essentially. And then when you become aware of those thoughts after the meditation, just spend 5 to 10 minutes just doing some journaling, just writing down what you become aware of. I think that can really help. Yeah.
One thing I've been trying to, I think I come across Marcus Aurelius stuff at least 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Strongly recommend it. It's all good. But last, I don't know, couple of months, one thing I've been struggling with is ego. Like, I strongly believe being calm in mind gives you strength because you're less reactive. But is there a point where you can be like not react, like if you're not reactive to anything, it's almost like emotionless. Like you haven't got it, you're not showing any emotions. And maybe I think that might have been my issue in the past.
I think that's where people get Stoicism wrong. They think it's emotionless. Like you don't have any emotions. And you're just this hard statue, essentially, that nothing affects you. But for me, it's not about that. It's about becoming aware of your emotions and what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and then processing that. And even when something triggers you, you're aware of the trigger, and you have a choice then to react or not. You can either react or respond. I think that's where Stoicism taught me, is when something does trigger you, when you have that stimulus of something triggering you, you have a choice whether to react to it straight away or respond in a calmer way. And that's what meditation taught me, is to have that gap between that stimulus and response and not snap.
Yep.
Which I think a lot of people can take from.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying about the emotional side of it. Yeah.
So I've been practicing a lot lately is trying to show my emotions. It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I've found a lot of people apologize for their emotions. Like a lot of people will get upset or come across like when I have a conversation with them, they're like, "Oh, sorry, I was upset or I was angry." It's like, don't apologize for your emotions. And as soon as I say that, people sort of look at me like, why not? Like, so it's one thing I've noticed recently in trying to show my own emotions, trying not to get people to apologize for theirs. And it's weird to see their reactions.
Okay.
Because
so, for example, someone will get angry and they'll apologize for it, or what do you mean?
Yeah. So say I bump into somebody on the street and they're having a bad day and maybe they were short with me for like no reason at all, just because they were, in a bad mood. And then later on they'll apologise. Oh, sorry, I was this, I was that. I'm like, don't apologise for that. They're your emotions.
Yes.
And people are always just like they just get stumped by it. And it's funny just to see like
their reaction.
Because everybody assumes that they should be sorry for being angry or, you know, sorry for being upset or, you know, short of somebody. It's like, do you apologise for being happy? Do you apologise for being excited? Like, all emotions are emotions. So why do you apologise for some and not apologise for others?
No, it's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, there's no need to apologise because, everyone experiences the whole spectrum of emotions. It's just human.
Yeah. And like lately I've been thinking about ego. Can be bad, can be good. Yeah. So it's sort of like, you know, like we spoke about before with bodybuilding, all that sort of stuff. A lot of people get into it because, you know, ego. They want to, you know, be better, look better, prove that person wrong, all that sort of stuff. Is that a bad thing?
Yes and no. I'd say no, it's not a bad thing because it's going to get you so far. But I think if you understand that it's probably fueling an insecurity, a lot of the time it's going to be fueling some sort of insecurity that's never going to be fixed by looking a certain way, or it's only going to be fixed by looking internally and maybe getting some therapy and, you know, figuring out why do I feel inadequate
to keep pushing towards that thing.
And that's the kind of shift between like my sort of 20s and 30s was becoming aware of that ego. You know, there's a book, obviously, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday as well, which is a good book. And I think ego is the enemy a lot of the time. But it obviously does drive a lot of people to success.
And if it's driving somebody to be a healthier version of themselves, like, I guess, you know, you can go too far. And like you said, like when you were in the midst of the bodybuilding, eating out of Tupperware, out at restaurants, all that sort of stuff, it's trying to catch it before that happens, you reckon? Or like at what point do you...
It's hard because you almost have to experience it, go through and live the experience yourself. And it might take, like for me, it took like a psychedelic experience for me to really become aware of my ego, which is really interesting because I think maybe if I hadn't have gone through that experience, I might have still been caught up in that ego a little bit more. So I think, you gotta almost experience it for yourself. Obviously, people can teach you and tell you ego is bad or whatever, but it's hard to.
And then there's some people I wish would have more. Like some clients, I wish they had that, I don't know, voice in their head saying, you're not good enough, get off the couch and go do something.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But is that ego then? Or is that something different? Or is that just self-worth? Or is self-worth the same as ego?
Okay.
Or is that I think that's getting into something different there. Because I think self-worth is knowing that you're worthy of achieving whatever you want to achieve. You know you're enough. That's self-worth. Whereas ego is thinking that you're better than someone, or thinking it's coming from a place of inadequacy. Whereas self-worth is knowing that you're enough. Does that make sense?
It does. So how would one build more self-worth? Like, is that journaling, looking in the mirror saying you're worthy? Is it like...
There's that quote from, I think it's Alex Hormozy, and it says you don't build, I'm going to paraphrase it and probably get it wrong, but something like you don't build confidence or self-worth from shouting affirmations in the mirror. You build confidence and self-worth from having an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. And I think you almost need the evidence. You do need that evidence to prove to yourself that you can where you are who you say you are, you can achieve that thing. It's a tricky one. Yeah, it's a tricky one. What would you say?
Yeah, I love that quote by Hormozy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think in the past I have tried to convince myself I was worthy of something without having evidence. And you always just end up failing. And sometimes you're failing over and over and over. You can't figure out why. It's because you're not doing the things you need to become that person. And usually, well, from my experience, it was just a matter of doing the things over a longer amount of time rather than trying to get that short, whatever it was, within a smaller time period. You can sit in the mirror for a week and tell yourself you're worthy of something, but you're not really changing much.
If there's no proof, then it's hard to believe, isn't it? But
you do it for long enough, a couple of years, 5 years, 6 years, then there's a lot more proof behind it.
Exactly. Completely agree.
Yeah. Damn it, I had it somewhere where I wanted to go with that, but I cannot remember now. So motivation and discipline, what's the difference?
Big difference. And I think that's where a lot of clients of mine have struggled in the past between differentiating between motivation and discipline. I think motivation is a word that gets thrown around on social media a lot. And there's a lot of motivational speakers out there that you see that get people, maybe give that people a spark to try something new or invest their time in something. But without the discipline behind that, you're never going to prolong that for a long time. You're never going to keep that up for a long time. So I think, discipline eats motivation for breakfast, I think is a quote.
Okay. So how does somebody get discipline? Like, what is discipline?
I think discipline is doing the things you don't necessarily want to do, but doing them anyway. Like, we don't necessarily I don't want to train. Sometimes I don't want to go for a run. Sometimes I don't want to lift heavy weights. But I know from doing it for years and years and years that it's part of the process for me to get to where I need to go, for me to achieve that goal, for me to become, what I want to become. So it's just knowing that that's part of the process and committing to it. But it is hard to build discipline. It is very hard. It's very hard. And there's lots of different areas. You can start, I think, starting really small. Like, start with something really, really small. Like, commit to, say, if you're trying to start a meditation practice, commit to just 1 minute a day. Like, just do 1 minute. Because everyone can do 1 minute. Everyone's got 1 minute. And just build on that daily. The next day, try another 10 seconds, even just like another 10 seconds. It doesn't even need to be 2 minutes. And then just compound interest is a good way to build that discipline. Same with like cold showers, for example. Like, start with 10 seconds and just compound interest, build daily. Tiny incremental changes, I think, will help build discipline over the long term.
When it comes to motivation then, how do you, because we'll be motivated, like sometimes, motivation, excitement, whatever you want to say, like, you hear a Hormozy quote and you're like excited, it motivates you.
Yeah.
So is there anything you do in that motivation state to then build those things into discipline? Does that make sense? So like, you're motivated, so I'm going to start doing that cold shower, or I'm going to start that podcast or whatever. But how do you then use that to then build discipline? Like, is it something you would work into your daily schedule, or is it just
It's a good question. I think you got to find out maybe what's motivating you, and you can use that as fuel. Like, you can find the quotes or the Hormozy quotes or something that is going to give you the fuel to start that action. But then And if you need that fuel every day when you're first starting out, use it. That's fine. I'd say like if you need to listen to a 10-minute motivational Tony Robbins speech or whatever to give you that kickstart into getting into the cold shower or going to the gym, opening the front door of the gym, then do it. But don't rely on it. There's only so long you can rely on that motivation to get you to do something. But if you need to do it for like a period of time, why not? Why not use it?
Yeah, I agree. So discipline would eat motivation. Would resilience eat discipline?
Oh, I think they're kind of they linked. Discipline and resilience are definitely linked, because the more discipline you have, the more resilient you'll be, and vice versa. But motivation definitely won't give you resilience.
Okay.
So yeah, I think what you're saying is resilience is a byproduct of being disciplined for a period of time.
So is that what we're going for? Resilience? Would that be the overarching goal of the Stoicism, building discipline, doing the habits that build to resilience? And what would that look like?
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say becoming resilient is incredibly important for all of us, because life's hard, and when something really hard happens, you want to be resilient. You don't want to turn to alcohol, drugs, which, you know, if you haven't built that level of resilience, then you're going to be way more inclined to go down that path. So I think having that level of discipline in something, that's where training really has helped me a lot with, learning resilience. And I think it's so important, resilience.
Yeah, there's a guest I want to get on. I'll get him on one day. He works in financial planning for people that are diagnosed with cancers, all that sort of stuff, that their life is going to eventually end in a couple of years. So he works with the families in financial planning to prepare for that.
Yeah.
And he always talks about how the people that have worked out, looked after their health, have a workout schedule, they're always a little bit easier to work with, because they just have that resilience. Like, this has come up, they're like, okay, so what do we need to do to make this happen, or this easier, that sort of stuff. Where people that haven't really worked out don't push themselves in certain ways. He's like, they always fall apart.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can definitely see a big, clear difference. I want to get him on the pod to chat about it, but just for who he works for, it's a bit shady. He's not allowed to talk about certain topics, but it's definitely interesting. And I feel like a lot of people would get a lot of benefit of just, a long-standing, like, this is what I have to do, whether it's workout, yoga, Pilates, running.
Yeah, just committing to something, just some form of physical activity. It doesn't have to be the gym necessarily. It can be, even a sport, like something you enjoy, just something that you enjoy, but is also pushing you out of your comfort zone a little bit, I'd say. So you build that resilience at the same time as enjoying it.
Bringing this all the way back to the start, you got injured, going in the race, a couple of days passed. How did you get back into training? Like, what drawed you back into training, and what motivated you? Was it motivation or discipline?
It was discipline.
Okay.
Completely. It was from the years and years and years and years of discipline I built from training week in, week out, and thinking, after a few days, this isn't, feeling sorry for myself. This isn't me. I'm not this person. I'm getting back into it. I get back on the horse. So I think, when you've been training for a long period of time, if you have a few days off, you just feel off. I don't know if you feel the same, but you just feel like something's off even after a few days of not training or not moving your body, you feel like something's off. And I think that's a great place to get to. Like if you can get to that place where, you know, you feel a bit like, what's going on here? After a couple of days without moving, then you've really reached that point where you've probably built enough discipline where you can just keep it up because your body's just telling you. And
then like you get back into it and then it's just smooth sailing from there. Like
I had to book it in. I had to book in another event.
Did you book it in within that first,
yeah.
When did you book it in?
It was the week after. So the week after I think it was the week after I got injured. I was like, suck it up, get back on the horse, book it in again. Another 6 months of training. Let's get it done.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And if you didn't book it in, you reckon you would have what would have happened?
I reckon I would have got there, but it probably would have taken more time. I probably would have taken 2 or 3 more months to do it. But I think you've got to just commit to that decision, because once you've made the decision to commit to it, you financially committed. You know, you spent a couple of $100 or whatever it is committing to the decision. You've got a date. You've got a time, and then you can work back from that. So I think that's the most important thing, is just to book it in. And you just figure it out as you go along. You literally just figure it out as you go along. Don't overthink it. Yeah.
I reckon we leave it there. Don't
Sweet.
overthink it.
Don't overthink it.
Thanks, Jonny.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for coming on. I knew this would be good.
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
Pleasure.
So where can people find you, learn a bit more about you?
So Instagram, Jonny Abbey _90. And then I've got a website with online programming. So jonnyabbyfitness.com. So check that out.
Sweet. All the links will be in the show notes.